Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Football Talk. And today we got 5 biggest things that still aren't in college football 27. I know some of you guys are gonna love this one right here. And you guys probably got 100 things that aren't in college football 27 from errors and stuff. But shout out to the man himself, Eric Rayweather. As you can see, we are live on the Twitch. If you guys want to join the Twitch or the TikTok, because we live on TikTok as well, make sure you follow your boy's social medias down in the description down below. Without further ado though, let's jump into this and let's go.
After weeks of reveals, deep dives, gameplay breakdowns, and even getting hands-on with the game myself, I think it's fair to say that College Football 27 is looking significantly better than the previous 2 games. But here's the thing, a game can improve dramatically and still have room to grow. And even with all of the great additions we've seen so far, there are still a handful of features that fans have been asking for since the series returned, and they're still not here. So let's talk about the 5 biggest things still missing from College Football 27. And before we get into the official top 5 list, I do want to throw this honorable mention out there because this is the single most requested feature, and that is importing your Dynasty draft classes into Madden. And if you've played the older EA football games, this is probably one of your favorite aspects about them. You build your Dynasty, you recruit players, you develop them for years, and then you can transfer them over to Madden, so your Dynasty doesn't really ever end, it just continues in a different game. And if we're talking about features that we want for the game, this is probably the biggest one that's still missing, but the problem is, I don't know that this is going to realistically happen anytime soon, and it's very little to do with EA. This issue is completely NIL related, because unlike the old NCAA games, we're now dealing with real players, real name, real likeness, and
Yup. So that's one thing that I think a lot of people kind of forget is that in the old college football games, there were no real people. There wasn't real names. Now you got the player likeness and you got the real names of these players. So a lot of things that you could do in the older generations and stuff like that, you can't do when it comes to like maybe customizing a player or wanting to put something on this player because such and such. There's a lot of things you can't do, and it's out of the hands of EA. Is because of the NIL and things like that. So I think that's one thing that people should understand when they be like, oh, in the PS2 era, we could do this with this player and do that. Well, yeah, because that player wasn't real. There were no real players at that time. So yes, you could do a lot more things than you could do now. I mean, it's called freedom. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. Makes sense, yeah.
legal agreements surrounding those athletes. Now, I'm obviously not a lawyer, and none of us know exactly what those conversations are behind the scenes, but from the outside looking in, this definitely seems like one of those things that's much easier to ask for than it is to legally implement. Trust me, if EA knew that they could do this and not have to ever worry about any legal consequences, they would do it. We can already transfer our Road to Glory player over to Madden. This is not a feature that they want to be omitted from the game, but there is a lot of legal red tape when it comes to using real players versus fake players from the older games. Now, I would like to see a workaround where maybe we can opt into starting a Dynasty with only fictional players, and then at that point we should be able to transfer them over to Madden. Maybe that's something they're going to be working on in the future, but for right now there is no draft class transfer over to the Madden game.
That will be one way to get by it.
5 in terms of features that are still missing from the game, we have to talk about historic teams. This is one of the most requested things I see in my comment section on social media.
Historic teams, yes.
People want to play with the legends. They want to play with the 2001 Miami
especially
Hurricanes,
in Madden. You see this a lot in Madden as well.
2019 LSU. Some of the greatest teams in college football history. And I completely understand why. Being able to settle those all-time debates would be incredible. Could 2019 LSU...
I was just about to say that. I would love to play with 2019 LSU. What? If I got a chance to play with 2019 LSU, oh my God. Oh my God. It would be amazing. That might be the only team I ever played with in the game. Like, I might not play with any other team. That would be so dope. That definitely would be so dope. I mean, look at this screenshot right here. Look at this. This screenshot right here is just dope. that is something. Wait, he was kicked off because he had too many injuries. My brother goes to university football. Oh, okay. That's what's up. Congratulations to your brother, man.
Beat 2001 Miami. Could Vince Young's Texas team survive in the current landscape?
Yep, you could do the what ifs, bro.
I think there's a reason why we still haven't seen this one, because historic teams are probably much more complicated than they sound. Because it's one thing to have rights to a handful of legendary players. EA already has relationships with a lot of former players because they're in Ultimate Team. But building out an entire historic roster is a completely different challenge, because now you're potentially talking about dozens of former players per team across multiple teams, across multiple eras.
That definitely is true.
Bunch of those players licensed, then the question becomes, would it really feel authentic? Because if 2019 LSU only has Burrow, Chase, Justin Jefferson, Derek Stingley, and maybe 2 to 3 other players, but the rest are just generics, does it really feel like 2019 LSU? Now, for me, I'm not sure that it does, but I do think people would rather this than nothing at all. I mean, hey, I know I want historic teams in the game, but I know that licensing
I would love to see that too.
Of even the 20 best teams of all time would be almost impossible to do. And back in the older games, it was all generic players on these rosters, but they were given the stats and being made to look like the old players. But we know they can't do that anymore, because that's why they got sued many years ago and the game went away. So if they did historic teams nowadays, you would have maybe 5 to 8 actual legends from that team, and the rest would be generic players that would not be made to look or have the attributes as the real players from that time. So again, I don't really think it would be authentic, but I do also think people would probably rather this than nothing at all. So hopefully one day they find a way to make this happen, because this wouldn't just benefit play now. You could build challenges around them. You could create different moments that you have to play through with these historic
It would definitely be cool.
Game modes can be built around this, which actually leads me perfectly into the next thing that's still missing: Heisman moments. One thing that older sports games in general used to do really well was celebrate history, and we don't see as much of that these days. One of the best ways they did that was through challenge modes. If you watched college football growing up, chances are there's certain moments that you'll never forget. Reggie Bush pushing his quarterback into the end zone, the kick 6 with Auburn and Alabama, Vince Young's national championship touchdown run. Imagine loading into a game and being challenged to recreate those moments, or maybe even rewrite them.
Now, I remember, what was it? It was obviously this is about college football, but it was one Madden where you open up the game and you got to block a field goal. I can't remember which Madden it was, but that was such a cool cinematic moment. That's one thing I would love to see more. I mean, back again in the college and the NFL, games and stuff. Have more cinematic moments. And what's crazy is when they did do these cinematic moments, people all complained and said, "Oh my gosh, this is so trash, this and that." Now that it's out, now people are like, "Oh my god, like EA's not trying anymore. But they used to do this, they used to do that." It's like the reason why they take a lot of things out is because you guys complain and get on the internet and spam to them and to others that you don't like something, so they take it. But now you want it back. It's like you gotta pick one. Do you not like it, or do you want it? There. Clear as day.
Maybe you try to stop them. Maybe
trust you be live every day. You're gonna be a big creator. I appreciate that, man.
It really can make games special, and it's something that sports games in general, I think, are really lacking nowadays. Because this creates awesome content for everybody playing, and it's not Ultimate Team content. It's not.
It would definitely be cool.
Actual football content, the kind of stuff that keeps people playing months after release.
Just put it down.
Again, this could maybe fall into the issue of they would have to license real players for this, and if you had mostly generic teams, it
might be another license.
Again, I think most people would agree they'd rather have something than nothing at all. Heck, maybe even if you just took one player and had kind of like a showcase.
No, that was my uncle.
Some years, or WWE 2K. Maybe you take Reggie Bush and have a showcase where he has to recreate his 10 most popular moments from his Heisman season.
That would be cool.
And every year you pick a new player. I mean, there's got to be a way to incorporate something fun like this that celebrates the history of the game and gives fans something they've been dying.
That would be dope to have.
Let's move to another massive request. This is one I see asked about more and more each year, and that is FCS teams. And they're still not going to be in the game this year, or at least not the
FCS
actual FCS teams. You have
teams.
the generic ones in Dynasty, but people want the actual real ones. And look, adding the FCS teams wouldn't be just about adding more teams. It would be about making the entire football world feel bigger. Right now, you
Yeah.
have 138 FBS schools, I believe.
Is it
And that's awesome, but college football
football?
is much bigger than that.
Yes.
Every year we see FBS schools scheduling FCS opponents. Every year we see some upsets. Every year we see stories emerge from those programs. I mean, look at
You know what the problem with this one would be? And obviously, you know, they're probably gonna get around this and stuff. There are already a lot of teams in the game now. To add these schools and get like the licenses for like their bands or their whatever they do, their intros and stuff, that's gonna take some time, because the one thing that you don't want to do is put them in and have generic entrance, because we saw, what was it 25 26, I think people kind of, you know, commented like, oh, this entrance is the exact same as such and this and that. So you not only gotta get the players in the game, but you also got to get everything that's built around it. It's because it's college football. It's a college atmosphere, you know. So it's gonna take time. But I feel like this one right here, probably more than the other ones he's talked about. We definitely could see this, because they are adding teams. They have added some schools for this coming up year.
Gotten recently. Now, yes, they are a FBS team this year, but think if they were in previous games and you were able to play with them while they were still an FCS team. That would have been dope. And especially for Dynasty, you might want to start out at an FCS school as a coach and then graduate up to one of the big programs in the SEC. Things like that would be possible with FCS teams. And not only that, but the schedules for whatever team you play in Dynasty would feel more authentic, because you would have to go against actual FCS teams and not generic ones. Because college football isn't just about the SEC and the Big Ten. It's really a massive ecosystem, and that goes all the way down to FCS. I do know this is something that EA wants to add. I mean, hey, we had it in older games. I think they were maybe more generic in the older games, if I remember correctly, but we still had them.
I think they were generic.
And I do know this is something EA would like to add, and I think eventually we are going to get this, but it seems like they're still much more focused on making sure that the FBS teams in the game are represented accurately, and there's still been a lot of work to
which
make
is
those teams more
understandable,
accurate, because when you're talking 138 teams, no matter how much work
that is a crazy amount of teams.
You can go.
What team? He's talking about like the lower level teams, like the North Dakota State and stuff like that.
Rather than later. And that brings us to what might actually be the most common request I see from strictly Dynasty players outside of the roster transfer, and that is creator recruit / full player editing. This one gets brought up constantly, and I know why, because the best parts about these modes is
full player editing. So kind of like what I talked about at the beginning, this one's gonna be tough because these are real players. Unlike in years past, like the old years that everybody likes to bring up, oh, it was so much better, this, that. You, like I said, you gotta remember, these are real players. So any customization that you do, it's gotta be within the rule book, you know? Because EA can't just let you do all these type of things and, you know, nothing happens to them. Because guess what? You remember when the game got taken away? You know why it got taken away? Because EA was giving a little, you know, you can do this, you can do that. You know, they're not real players, but their stats are based off of real players. You know, so they try to kind of, you know, that was like the loophole that they can get to. But now, them lawsuits, they only going to get bigger. And it can get to a point where EA's like, this lawsuit is, we're not bringing in enough money to pay for this lawsuit. Even if we win the lawsuit, we still lost at the end of the day, because we're losing money paying lawyers and all that. Obviously, I don't know exactly how much it is and stuff like that, but I have heard that, you know, EA is kind of walking on eggshells. They don't want what happened last time, you know. But this is something that I would love to see improve, and if they can find a way to get past this, That would be super dope.
Creating your own stories. Maybe you want to create yourself in Dynasty or create your friends. Maybe you want to create the next Arch Manning and then go and recruit him to your school. Hey, maybe you want to recreate an actual recruiting class from real life. But here's the thing, that's why we don't have it, because with the NIL stuff and the fact that they got sued many years ago and the game went away, they're going to have to limit the
I
stuff.
literally
And
just
maybe they
talked
can
about
open up
this.
some more things
I
here and
literally
there,
just said
but
that.
it's always going to be more limited in the older games because there is the possibility of them getting in
Yes.
trouble. And if they get in trouble, then the game goes away. And I don't know about you, but I don't
game
want
go
the game
bye-bye.
going away. So while this is frustrating, like some of the other things on this list, I understand why they can't completely dive deeply into this.
And it's not an excuse either.
But there
This
are
is
some
like
workarounds for this.
real.
In Dynasty,
You can this
find a
documentary.
non-NIL player and create yourself. You can obviously edit the recruits that are coming into your team, but I would like to see them maybe try to find a workaround for at least creating a recruit, because that's one of the most fun things about the game. You go create this super recruit or create yourself as a recruit, and then you go out there and actually try to get him on your team. Maybe you land him, maybe you don't, but that's what makes the mode fun. But as long as we're in the NIL era and we have to use real players for the game, otherwise there would be no game at all, it's going to be hard for some of this stuff to be fully implemented. And that brings us to number 1, ESPN presentation. This is one I see asked about a ton. And I mean, it
Oh
makes sense
my
why. ESPN is
gosh,
massive.
the
And
ESPN
doesn't just mean having a logo in the
presentation.
game or having instant classics back.
Now, I remember. By the way, this is made by AI. I remember when I first saw this screenshot pop up and people were losing their mind. People was like, "Oh my god, it's gonna be in the game!" Da, da, da. Right? This right here is probably my top one. I will love to have College Game Day. What? College Game Day in the game? This right here is my request right here. I will love to have the ESPN stuff in the game, bro, because it will make like every game feel different. You know, when it's College Game Day and they come to your campus, you know, like this game is different. You know, it's kind of like senior night or senior day or whatever. Like, it's a different feeling, and this would be so dope to see, like before the game, and see your fans and stuff like that, or even seeing another college, like say you're on the road and they have the College Game Day, to see their fans. This right here, I would love if they was to put this into the game.
Back in the game, it means things like College Game Day, a more authentic ESPN score bug, maybe even the music, the graphics. And ESPN was in the older games, so once it was in older games, it's something that we naturally come to expect with the current game.
That definitely is true.
27 has made some good strides with presentation and atmosphere. There's still a lot of people that want that final layer of authenticity, which is the ESPN package. Because for a lot of us, it's not really just about the logo, it's about the immersion that it creates. Now, will this return back to the game one day? I don't think it's impossible. In fact, I think they're using some ESPN stuff in Madden this year, so that means we could maybe potentially see this come back to the.
And I think didn't they have ESPN like collab in last year's
networks, whether it be like ESPN or Fox, let's say. Those companies have a lot of creative control in how they're used in the game. Because again, if I have a company and you want to use it in your product, I'm not going to let you use it any way you want. I'm going to say what you can and can't do. And
that's
the problem
definitely
with
true.
that is it becomes that maybe it's more authentic because you have that brand in the game, but maybe they have too much control over how they're presented, and that takes away from your vision from the game. There's certain things you can do that now you can't do because ESPN says no. If my license is in the game, you can't use it this way. So that's why they don't really go with it as much. But I do think there's always a possibility for some workarounds.
This would be super dope if we can get this in the game.
And
Appreciate the likes.
let me know below which of these things is the biggest deal breaker for you, or any of these things.
Alrighty. So for me, like, these aren't deal breakers, but these are like nice to have. And I know what people are gonna say. You know, I'm gonna post a clip on TikTok or something like that, and I'm probably gonna get some comments like, "Well, you're just," you know, I always get the EA defender type of thing, right? But in my honest opinion, number one is definitely, like, I would love to see the ESPN presentation, the music, College Game Day. Like, I would love to see all that. And I'm pretty sure they worked with ESPN for the Penn State Mobamba thing. Was it 20? I think it was 26, right? Or it might have been 25. I think it was 26 though, if I'm not mistaken. You know, the I got hoes and like the stadium shaking and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they worked with ESPN, or like maybe like a subset of the ESPN or whatever for that. But yeah, that would be super dope. Let me know, are there any others that you will want to see in the newer games? Let me know, chat, in the comments down below. Love you guys and see you guys in the next one.